I struggle to empathize with people who would give up. It doesn't make sense to me. Sam Adams said, for those of you who prefer safety.
Greetings, everyone. Dale Parrish, Convention of States, Indiana Live host, along with my co-host, Mr. Ken Kashuba.
Hi, Dale.
Did you catch that, Ken? I started the wrong video there.
You were going back in time. That's okay. It was.
I debated on. We haven't played that in a long time. I quickly debated on whether I should
let it
continue
roll
with it, but I decided not to. So anyway. another faux pas. What can I say?
I'll make a blooper reel for you one of these days, Dale.
You probably could. Yeah. Well, everyone, welcome to COS Indiana Live, and we have a great show for you this evening. I think you're going to enjoy what we're doing. I just want to say briefly, folks, the content that we are bringing you and trying to bring to you is all intended. This centers around one of the pillars of our resolution, and that is to rein in the breadth and control of the federal government. So we're trying to expose and talk about abuses of the federal government, overreach by the federal government. So as well as the national debt and term limits, those are the three main pillars of our resolution that we want to see happen at a convention of states. So I just want to remind everyone why we're doing this, okay? And of course, along the way, we'll also introduce you to COS volunteers, outstanding volunteers and leaders. So not only in Indiana, but outside of Indiana as well. So anyway, Ken, you're going to be, of course, you're going to be monitoring the views and comments tonight, viewer comments and questions, I should say.
Yep.
You'll let us know if anything pops up there that we need to talk about.
Yep.
But in the meantime, Ken, how about you telling us about that QR code and where is it located above you tonight?
Well, it's above me, usually up here in this corner.
See, that's not the right corner. That's
on my screen. That is above my head. Now, if I go over here,
yes,
there you go.
That's where yours. Okay, well,
yeah.
Let's don't spend time debating.
Yeah, we have to figure out what computer you're looking at there, Dale. But
okay,
yeah, that QR code. We hope our viewers will go ahead and take their smartphones out and snap a shot of that, because it'll bring them right to an area where they can just put in their name and an email address, and they can become subscribers to COS Indiana Live, where they can get a lot of neat materials and video series, a number of educational programs, all there for our subscribers. And basically, it's free. We don't ask you for any money. And we don't chase you down with emails. We just put the information and the materials there and have at it, So it's a freebie, but what it does is it allows us to see that we are being supported, and we have a nice little group of people there that we're hoping to grow. So
good deal. Good deal.
I will also post a URL in the chat for those too.
All right. Well, hey, we haven't listened to Maringo Mike in a while, so let's do a little Maringo Mike here real quick, okay?
That sounds good.
Hello, and welcome to another Maringo Mike's Corner. As we round the bend to the end of 2024, is this the image you feel and see? Does your stroll down your local grocery store aisle find you eliminating everything but the basics? Could your next trip to the gas station have an EV-only sign where the gas pump used to be? Do the faces on the people you pass on the streets tell you a different story than the nightly news? Is the over-regulated, overbearing government of our land completely out of control? You need to ignore what you're being fed by the mainstream media and think about these things when you go to the voting booth soon to make intelligent decisions about our country, not based on your feelings or emotions. We the people have the power to fix what is wrong with our government and return to the landscape we know and love the best. And that will do it for now from Marengo Mike's Corner. Our encouragement and prayers go with you. Bye-bye for now.
Well, good to hear from Marengo Mike again. And we haven't touched base with him in a while. So
Yeah, it was good to see him floating around out there next to the Statue of Liberty. So hopefully they people.
All right. Well, last week we played part 1 of our interview with Mark and Jaleese Middleton. They head up the American Patriot Relief Fund, and this is for J6 prisoners and families and so forth. And of course, they are considered prisoners themselves. So we spent in part 1 talking mainly about their situation, what happened to them on January 6th, and what got them involved in everything that went on. So this is part 2, and we're going to focus on the nonprofit that they have created to help others in the same situation that they are in, as well as families and relatives affected by this. So without further ado, let's get into American Patriot Relief Part 2. Back with you again to continue our conversation with Mark and Jaleese Middleton of American Patriot Relief. And this, once again, this is a group we've to date we've learned about their situation with January 6th and their involvement, and now we're going to get into the organization that they've created, American Patriot Relief, and what they're trying to do. And I think you're going to find this very interesting. So let me bring Mark and Jaleese back on, and let's continue with our conversation. Hello, here we are again.
Yes, indeed.
Hello, Dale.
Well, we've now we understand your situation. I don't know how you do it, guys, but I my hat's off to you.
It wasn't in our own strength, and it's still not.
Absolutely.
There's
it's a God
no
thing.
way that you can carry the weight of the government in your own strength. There's no way to do that.
Yeah. God bless you. Let's get in. Let's just jump right over to your website, American Patriot Relief, and let's talk about a few things on your website. And I know there's some things that you want to make sure everyone's aware of. So let's jump over to your website. Okay, folks, I'm going to give this a full screen so you won't be able to see the three of us, but we're still here and you'll be able to hear us. So I want to give it a full screen as much as possible here. So guys, this is the home page of your website, American Patriot Relief. And I want to just jump over here to the untold stories, because amongst the different stories that you have here, your own story, which we heard in segment 1, is right here on that page.
Yes, it is.
And you get a chance to ride that motorcycle very much?
Actually, that's not ours. That picture was taken up in New York, Long Island, New York, back this past January 6th at a basically a
American warehouse.
America First warehouse. So we were there for a J6 event.
Okay.
It was very wonderful. But yes, these are stories of not only January 6th defendants, but also some of our biggest supporters that have helped us out. We have the story of Victoria White in there. She just recently has been in the news. Victoria's story is real interesting because Victoria was beat within an inch of her life up in the Upper West Tunnel by Jason Bagshaw. I believe he is a Capitol police officer, may have been Metro, I can't remember.
I think he's Metro.
Her story was absolutely horrific because in that exact same location is where Roseanne Boylan was beat to death. And Victoria was able to come out with her life.
Really?
However, of course, just like all J6ers, everything's your fault. Nothing's the fault of the government. And no matter how nefarious, she got pushed into the tunnel. You can actually see her getting crushed by the crowd. And through that crushing is how she ended up in the tunnel trying to get to a safe spot. And then the police officers attacked her and beat her almost to death. Wow. So she filed, she went to prison for 9 days. Because she did take a plea, just because you've got to do whatever you have to do to survive in this. But then she has filed a $2 million civil lawsuit against the police department. And it'll be real interesting to see how that turns out for her.
Yep. Yes, yes. Well, you got all sorts of stories here, and I would encourage anyone that wants to learn about some of these individuals to go to your website. Now, I want, there was another page that you wanted to stress, didn't you? Oh, adopt a J6er, right?
Yes, yes. This is one of my favorites right here. This program, it really involves your viewers' support. What it is an opportunity for them to go through and shop through the pictures of January 6th defendants that are just below that screen right there. And they can find somebody in need of commissary support. The government, the BOP, the Bureau of Prisons, can be very complicated trying to donate to prisoners. And we take that burden off of the community. Everything that they agree to donate, which we don't set an amount, it's whatever you can afford. You get to choose the person you would like to support. You can go in there and adopt them for a minimum of 3 months at a time. We do have a time commitment on there, but obviously if things go awry, we can help you to get out of that if you need to. But you pay their commissary, and each month we put that on their books for them. And as you see, there are quite a few there, and that is not even an exhaustive list. That just scratches the surface. We have over 200 in prison right now, and it is very expensive to be in prison. Most people don't realize this. They think you're getting 3 hots in a cot, but you don't. So in order to survive, you do have to have food. You do have to have medicine. You cannot even get Tylenol unless you purchase it on your own.
Really?
Yes. Same with your shoes. You have to purchase your own shoes, or you get a pair of foam flip-flops that would damage your
socks, feet. Underwear, shaving equipment, hairbrush, everything. You want that, you have to buy it. Toothpaste, toothbrush, everything.
You know, I would have never, ever thought about that. That's something I'm sure people are totally unaware of.
I'm sure they are. It takes, from what I'm hearing out of the community, it takes a minimum of $250 a month for somebody to be in a prison. And that is literally skirting by.
Wow. Wow. My goodness. My goodness. So if there's someone that you want to adopt, then fill out the form here.
That's absolutely right. And we will get in touch with you and get all of your information, and we will start making commissary payments on your behalf. The only way they're going to know that you are their donor is if you write them a letter and choose to reveal yourself. Otherwise, the donation goes through as American Patriot Relief. We do that so that the decision is yours, whether you want your identity revealed or not.
Now, when you communicate with a prisoner, can you communicate electronically, or does it have to be handwritten type?
So most of the prisons work through core links, CORRLINKS, I believe it is.
Oh, okay.
I know very little about it, but the prisoner does have to have a tablet that costs $133 that can be paid through the commissary funds.
So you got to buy that too.
They got to buy that too. They've also got to buy their phone minutes. They're given approximately 300 minutes. And then anything over that has to be paid for through the commissaries. So this goes toward, and on the core links, they're charged by the minute and by the text message. Wow. So even that comes through commissary. It provides so much for that prisoner.
Well, let's go back here to the homepage, and the important part on this homepage is that donate button, right?
That's absolutely right.
Okay.
So it is AmericanPatriotRelief.org, and this is the homepage you're seeing here. What this is the general fund for American Patriot Relief that allows us to help the J6er that is not in prison, or sometimes we do pay commissary through it. But what we do is we help the J6er or their family to be able to afford day-to-day needs, because most of these J6ers are men, and they have families that need to be supported. So we buy diapers, we buy food, we buy whatever it takes, fix the car, whatever, so mom can get kids to and from school, or she can work. We do all of that through the general fund.
Keep up their mortgage, pay for travel to and from their trial and sentencing. So it's a very important thing that we're providing, and we can't do it without the public's help. But I do want to make sure and always clarify, Mark and I do not receive any of those funds. We started this nonprofit purely for the service to our brother. We are very Christ-based. We believe we are our brother's keeper, and we're not going to get caught up in the drama of worrying about our own case when there's the lives of so many other January 6th defendants and politically persecuted at risk. Right now, we have 1,503 January 6th defendants. That is 1,503 families that have been destroyed and annihilated by a tyrannical government.
And what people need to understand on that is, not only do they arrest us in a large SWAT public fashion, they dox all of us, and then they put all of us J6ers and their family members on what's called the Quad S travel restrictions, so that you get the full search when you go to fly on an airplane, the full-blown search. Everything gets swabbed for bomb explosives. Even newborn babies that are of the J6er are being strip searched.
Really?
Yes.
That is correct.
So, you know, that and because we're on the terrorism watch list, well, now you can't go get a loan. Banks have a right to call any loan that you have with them. People are getting fired left and right. Even spouses and other family members are getting fired from their jobs.
And the employers are fearful to hire them.
Sure.
So, you know, they can't even get back up on their feet after getting out of prison.
I had a prisoner tell me the punishment is the process.
That's correct.
Punishment is the process.
That is absolutely correct.
And it's to keep you hung up in that process as long as possible, to break you. And I think their ideal goal would be for that J6er to commit suicide, which leads me to the next thing, which is our hotline.
Yeah, let's put that up there. That's at the top of that homepage on your website. I took that down, but that's the hotline right there.
That's right. That is 833-SAVED-J6, SAVED J6. And the purpose behind this hotline is to be a resource to the January 6th defendants and their families, to where if they're just feeling discouraged or hopeless, they can call this hotline. We are not trained licensed professionals. We are simply brothers and sisters in Christ that have been through what you have been through. I'm one of the call takers. And our goal is to remind you of who you are in Christ, lift you back up, dust you off, and give you the tools to be able to withstand the wiles of the enemy. We also provide resources to you Those resources may be financial assistance, tell you how to get, reach out for financial assistance. It might be that, we find you legal assistance and help you with that. We have all kinds of organizations that we partner with that assist the January 6th defendants. We all work together very closely to try to help the January 6th defendant as much as possible.
I didn't put this on this banner, but that's a 24/7 hotline, right?
That
Absolutely.
is correct. All volunteer ran, if that tells you the level of commitment from the people taking these calls.
All right. Guys, God bless you. I tell you, it's you're doing great work. If there's anything we have missed, what's your ultimate goal here with American Relief? What is there anything that we've missed as to what you're trying to accomplish and what you want to accomplish?
Well, it's, helping J6ers meeting all of their financial and spiritual needs, but also beyond J6. Eventually J6 is going to be, no longer a thing, but there's always the overreach of a tyrannical government that we will have to deal with for, now until Christ returns. But it's to raise awareness for the J6 situation, for all of those that are caught up in this trap.
And to just give them a voice, just like you're doing here. The government is trying to silence them and they're in fear, so they stay silent. Well, the enemy works in darkness. So when they stay silent, everybody is harmed by it, not only them, but also the ripple effect down the road, because the government can continue to work in darkness and do the evil deeds that we're seeing them do. So, American Patriot Relief takes opportunity to be vocal and outward, to stand boldly for the Lord, and to know that this battle has already been won. We were made for such a day as this. We've been called and equipped, and we are not backing down from this battle. All the Lord ever has asked us to do is stand firm. And we're teaching the people how to do that through American Patriot Relief. And,
another goal, and we're achieving it, but is for like commissary for the average American who wants to help and provide commissary. The reason why you give to us is so that we run it through American Patriot Relief. So when the government is seeing all of this commissary come in, it's not coming from Bob and Jan and Sue and whatever else. It's coming through American Patriot Relief. So it's a way to keep your name off the record, off of the federal, the watchful eye of the federal government.
That's good. That's a good point. Mm-hmm. Guys, I don't know what else to say, but other than thank you for what you're doing. You're certainly, I think we can say Convention of States is right there with you as far as reining in the breadth and control of the federal government and addressing overreach. So best of luck to you. And I hope we'll touch base with you as time goes on and see how things are going with you.
Absolutely. The difference will be made at the polls. And that is going to be really the only way to save the January 6th defendants is for everybody to go to the polls. And let me tell you, just like Trump told you years ago, they're not after him, they're after you, and he's standing in the way. They're not after the January 6th defendant anymore. They're after you, and the J6ers are standing in the way.
So
I don't think we could close out any better. So thank you very much, Mark and Jaleese.
Thank you,
Dale.
Well, folks, that was, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Mark and Jaleese Middleton of American Patriot Relief. I hope that we can even have other organizations on. Like I said before, I'm learning that there's a number of different organizations out there. So hopefully that we'll be bringing more of those to you. So that's it for now with COS Indiana Live. So have a good day, everyone. All right, Ken. Well, I tell you, I really enjoyed talking to those two. They're really, I have to, I think I said God bless them a number of times, and I can't say it enough. Um, they're really doing great work, and I'm finding other groups like this, and we're going to try and bring some more of them on. Um, it's just amazing the network that's out there. So
Yeah, it's quite obvious that their faith alone is enough to drive them and support them and give them the strength. And
yeah,
just hopefully as we move forward and into this election, golly, I hope
Yeah.
we get a lot of this straightened out.
You got to also keep in mind these two are prisoners.
Yeah,
They have been found guilty on 9 different counts.
Yep.
Their sentencing has been postponed again to October 22nd. It's been postponed about 5 times.
Yeah,
and they continue to be on home confinement during this. So,
yeah, I think we talked about this earlier in the year. We talked about this, what this year was going to be like as an election year, and regardless of what side you fall down on this whole election, no matter what side you come down on, I think most, these last weeks and months, if it hasn't shown you that there is definitely an overreaching tyrannical government that, the American people, if you don't realize it by now, I think we're really in trouble, and I believe there's a larger amount of people that see what's going on right now.
Yeah. Well, it's time to shift gears here. We're going to shift over to some election integrity, or it falls into that category. We're going to talk about who counts the votes. Now, something I forgot to bring up here, Ken, is I want to share my screen. Okay. And let me do that. I hope I don't
blow things up.
Blow things up here. And we can still hear each other?
Yeah, things look good. Go ahead. You got your screens on there.
The young lady that I'm going to introduce to you, her name is Stephanie Nutter. She lives down in the Martinsville, Morgan County area. Okay. And she has written 3 articles that appear in the Morgan County Correspondent, and I've got their website up here. So I want to show you where you can find her articles. If you go to the opinion selection on the menu here, and now the articles that she wrote appeared back in August. So I'm going to go ahead here and
here's July
and try and get to the page that I want you to see. And of course, it doesn't appear that I'm having much luck here. So
you're in July, so you're fairly close.
Okay, yeah, this is page 4 is where I wanted to be. So somewhere in here on page 4, there's 3 articles. I won't take time to try and find them here, but it's the name of the articles. Each article is Who Counts the Votes, and the author is Stephanie Nutter. And I'm going to bring on Stephanie here now. We did a Zoom call with her, and the reason we did this is because she has put together a PowerPoint presentation. She's actually presented this at I don't know where she has done it already, but one of our people, one of our COS volunteers, saw her at a church presentation that she did, and using her PowerPoint. So we're going to, I got with her, and we're going to do 2 parts here. This is part 1, but so we've kind of modified her PowerPoint down to get it within the time limit that we're trying to work with here. So I hope you'll enjoy this, because she's like I said, she's very, very energetic and very sharp young lady. So I want to bring this on, Ken, and hope everybody enjoys this. Okay.
Great.
Well, greetings, everyone. Dale Parrish, COS Indiana Live host. As I promised you, I have a dynamic young lady online here by the name of Stephanie Nutter, author of Who Counts the Votes. So we're going to visit with Stephanie here for a little while today. She has prepared a PowerPoint that I'm just going to let her go through it. And this, I think, will explain everything that we want to convey to you today. This is part one, and we have another part coming. So, Stephanie, welcome to COS Indiana Live. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Just fine, just fine.
Good.
Okay, let's move on, and we're gonna share. I'm gonna turn the screen over to Stephanie and let her go with the PowerPoint.
Thanks for having me, Dale. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Go right ahead. There you go.
I am just a regular person here. Let's see. Is it sharing the? Oh,
Yes.
You know what? This meeting is being recorded. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's all right. Now, which screen? Can you see the election integrity screen, or which screen is it?
Yes, we're fine. We're fine.
Okay. So I'm just a regular person. I was a poll worker in the 2020 election. This was my first experience. And I was really excited. I live in Morgan County, Indiana. And during the 2020 election, we used direct recording electronic equipment built by Microvote. And so it was electronic, but I naively thought that at the end of the day at 6 o'clock, that we were going to be able to go back, and we packed up the equipment, took it back to the administrative building, and I asked the clerk at the time, where were all of the poll workers counting the votes? I kind of thought I would see, a Democrat and a Republican sitting together, counting votes. And she said, no, that wasn't the way that it was done, that actually Microvote sends a representative and they complete a digital tally. And that kind of threw me a little bit. That was my first kind of, oh, okay, that's a little different. It didn't really sit well in my spirit. There was something a little off. And then later that night, I talked to my mom, who lives in Ohio, and she had gone to vote. And they told her when she got to the polling location that they showed that she had already voted, and she hadn't. And so that was concerning for her. They ended up saying, okay, they figured it out after she said she hadn't voted. She was there to vote. She was going to vote. They ended up figuring it out, and she was able to vote. But when she told me that experience, it kind of brought back those feelings that I had as a poll worker, that something just seemed a little off. So I started looking into elections, and there's been a lot of talk of election integrity, and I always think it's important to be able to define the words that we're using quite a bit. So let's see. So with that, an election is the internal, free, and spontaneous separation of one thing from another without compulsion, consisting in intention and will. And that's very important, intention and will. A vote is our private property, and it is our intention that it be counted as we intend it to be counted, as we will it to be counted. Integrity, wholeness, entireness, and an unbroken state. So we're saying with election integrity that it's we the people's desire that our will be utilized as intended in wholeness of how we intended it. Okay. And so I started, I had to do kind of a quick deep dive into what it was that people used across the country to vote with. And so we used the direct recording electronic systems here, which had no paper ballot backup for 2020. We since have implemented the same equipment, but has now a paper ballot backup. And what that means is that your ballot is printed on a piece of paper that's kept in a scroll.
Do you know, was that implemented statewide? Because here in Allen County, that was the first time I saw it when I voted as well. Was that implemented statewide?
Yes, it was.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And then you've got hand-marked paper ballots. So these are counties that do have paper ballots. You'll hear people say, "Oh, wait, we use paper ballots." And so these are paper ballots, but they're usually run through a tabulator. So not hand counted by poll workers, but run through a tabulator.
Okay.
There's a really good website called Verified Voting, which has an interactive map that I found very helpful when I was looking into this. And I thought it gave a great presentation of the kinds of and types of equipment and voting methods and mechanisms used across the country. So the dark green, which you'll see the majority of the country is, are hand-marked paper ballots. Now, again, these doesn't mean that it's hand counted, just that you have a paper ballot that you hand mark and you turn it in, and they potentially probably run it through a tabulator.
Okay.
But what I found most interesting, when I pulled this map up, I thought, well, that's really cool. But then I looked at Indiana, and this is, again, 2020. So it shows red. Now in 2024, it will show this burnt orange, because just as we spoke about, we've got the paper ballot backups, verified voter paper audit trail. So it'll show burnt orange. But in 2020, it was red. And that took me by surprise that we were that different from what looks like a lot of the rest of the country.
That is surprising, yes.
And so I drilled down. It's got the drill down, and you click on your state, and you can see the state information. And I really was interested in our county, Morgan County. And so you can click on your county, and you can pull up, and it'll tell you what voting equipment you use, what methods you use. So you can see that the majority of Indiana utilized for 2020 the direct recording electronic equipment with no paper ballot backup. Again, all of these red counties now for 2024 will be direct recording electronic equipment with paper ballot backup.
Okay. Okay. I see my county up there. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I was interested. We were told that it was the most secure election in American history.
Right.
And I was really curious about who was making that statement. And what I found was that it was a group called the Election Infrastructure Subsector Coordinating Council, which is a group of individuals or members that come together, and they perform functions for the government to allow people or to check the security, to make sure that the elections are secure. And so they told us it was the most secure election ever. What I found in drilling down on this is that per Public Law 92-463, the members of this organization are considered special government employees, which gives them a special designation exempt from oversight. Drilling down even a little further, I found that these members required an official to sign a conflict of interest statement in order for them to be members, because there was a potential financial conflict of interest. So not only were the members of this group exempt from oversight, but they were also brought in with a potentially known financial conflict of interest. So then I thought, okay, well, who are these individuals that are in this group that would be telling us it's the most secure election ever? And I pulled up the member affiliations, and I saw, okay, Dominion's on here. I recognized they were in the news.
Yeah.
Election Systems and Software was on here. That was the one that's utilized in my mom's county in Ohio, where she went to vote. I told her she'd already voted, even though she hadn't. And I was shocked, but Microvote is on there. And Microvote is utilized in 57 of our 92 counties here in Indiana. So I thought that it was interesting that the individuals or the members that told us, or the group that told us that it was the most secure election in American history, was exempt from government oversight with a certified financial conflict of interest on file, and that the membership are the organizations that manufacture the equipment itself. So that's where you get into a little bit of the fox guarding the hen.
So if they have a conflict, a financial conflict of interest, that's waived, then they're not held responsible for that.
Right. It doesn't prevent them.
That's amazing. Yeah. Okay.
And so I wondered, okay, has anybody else out there seeing this or have any uneasy feelings about what was going on? And there's a gentleman named Seth Keschel, and there's actually quite a lot now of individuals who have done this. He took a look at population data in the various counties, and he did this for a whole bunch of states. But for Indiana, this is the data that he found. He found that in looking at population data, historical population data, when compared with historical voting registration data, that there were several counties that were statistically off from what you would expect. Didn't fall within a realm that you would of expectation.
Right.
And so our county, Morgan County, was one of those counties where our population versus the total number of new registered voters didn't quite jive. And so, interestingly enough, Lake County, and I don't want to misquote, but I believe he says that this is one of the top 5 or top 10 counties in the United States. So yellow is suspect likely fraud, and red he's designated as strong or rampant fraud.
Wow.
Anybody in any Indiana county can go to their local election clerk and for that county and request the voter registration data. And that gives you a bunch of information.
Right.
It gives you a list of active and inactive registered voters. It gives you a list of names, addresses, and 10 years worth of voting history. It doesn't tell you who they voted for, but it does give you voting history, whether they voted absentee, if they voted in primaries, general elections, things like that. And so in April of 2021, we requested that voter registration data. And then as we got going in our county, there were several other individuals that were interested in this, and they collected data in October or September and October. What we noticed was that our data that we were finding didn't match what was registered with the Secretary of State in terms of the number of voters who voted in the 2020 election. And the two biggest ones we'd like to highlight are this large number, 6,282 active voters. So that means they have voted in prior voting elections but they had no data history in the system. And there were 8,355 total number of voters, so both active and inactive, with no data in the system. And this number increased, so it changed from our April to our September numbers by 525 voters. And people who are a lot more tech savvy than myself will tell you that when there is no vote history or no data behind the name, that is a name that's ripe for the picking for anybody out there who's doing any nefarious acts, cyber.
This was just for Morgan County, right?
Yes, just for Morgan County.
You can imagine what that is, what that would be for statewide. And okay, that's very interesting. Very interesting.
And so this really got me thinking, hey, what are the regulations? What are the rules or the laws that we should be looking at here and abiding by when it comes to elections? What's our guidance in this, other than just a feeling that something is off? What's our guidance in this? And so I kept hearing people talking about the United States Constitution and read the Constitution. And what dawned on me was we also have state constitutions. And I believe Indiana's state constitution is one of the better state constitutions that I've read, but I came across Article 2, Section 13, which says all elections by the people shall be by ballot, and all elections by the General Assembly or by either branch thereof shall be viva voce. So the first thing that pops out is that all elections by the people, so not by machines, but by the people,
Okay.
shall be by ballot. And a lot of people will quote just this first part, and they'll leave off the part about the General Assembly. But when you read this section in its entirety, you can grasp that the intention of this Article 2, Section 13 is saying, hey, the people, all elections by the people. So what this means is that the people will have oversight of the elections. And so when they're saying the General Assembly viva voce, that's by living voice. And what they mean here is that we can physically see our representatives stand up and we can hear their vote so that we know their intention and that it's coming from them directly. And so we're asking, are our elections by the people, which are currently being done by machines, do we not have that same right to a level of decisiveness with our vote tally? And when it's done by machine instead of by people, we can't open that machine and see the operating systems operating in the background to know that our vote is being counted as we intended. So remember, it's our intention and our will that our property be utilized as we will it. So the word by here, it seems silly, but I started looking at the dictionary of these words, or the definitions of these words, and by is identifying the agent performing an action. So when we say all elections by the people, what our founding fathers were telling us is that they've identified the agent to perform the action by the people so that we have oversight and a confidence that our votes, our will is being done.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Getting close on time here. So let's,
Yes. So some head scratchers. This is one of our final slides here. Some head scratchers that I found when I went to the Indiana General Assembly website, and you scroll across and you click on laws. When I clicked on Constitution, what popped up was a page that says laws, and it's blank.
It's blank, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah, that's a bit of a head scratcher. Wait, where are all the laws? Why aren't there laws listed on here? What's going on with that? And so this got me interested, and I dug a little further, and I found that Chapter 2 is laws governing the state. So first that's listed is the hierarchy of law. So here is the General Assembly telling us, okay, for all you Hoosiers, here's the hierarchy of law. So the law governing this state is declared to be, first, the Constitution of the United States and of this state. Second, all statutes of the General Assembly of the state in force and not inconsistent with such constitutions, which means that second comes statutes, but statutes cannot be inconsistent with the Constitution or they are null and void. Third are statutes from the United States level in force. Also, these cannot be inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States. So any language that comes through in a statute which is inconsistent with the intention and language in the Constitution, the first and most important, is rendered null and void. And fourth, I thought this was just very interesting, the common law of England and statutes of the British Parliament.
Oh, that's interesting. Yes.
Yes. And then we get a quick reminder from Sam Adams. It does not take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority, keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. So it's a good reminder to us, a bit of the squeaky wheel gets the grease here, and don't stop digging. Use the dictionary, read the Constitution.
All right. All right. Well, folks, I think that's a wrap Stephanie, you want to give me back the screen, please? All right. Well, folks, as I said, this is part one, and part two is going to be an interesting look at what you can do about this. And so Stephanie's got some really, really good ideas here. So we'll be preparing that for our next interview with Stephanie Nutter on COS Indiana Live. So Stephanie, thank you very much for your time today. You're just amazing. Yeah, it's just amazing how, just as an individual citizen, that you were able to do all this research. So,
we're all doing it. I think we're all doing it.
yes, we need to. We need to. So, Stephanie, thank you very much for coming on, and looking forward to part two.
Thank you. Thanks, Dale. Thanks for having me.
That's what you call doing your homework, huh, Dale?
Isn't that the truth? Boy, I tell you, she is so thorough. I just
If only the average person would do that kind of research on who they're voting for, we'd have a lot less to worry about.
We would. I tell you, we would. She is really amazing, and looking forward to bringing on part two, and I plan on having that for us next week, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, Stephanie, I hope we'll have her on a number of times in the future, because election integrity. I know we got a big election coming up. There's no doubt about that, but election integrity is not going to end with the next election. This is something that should continue on, and we should always be trying to weed out and sort out any kind of fraud in our elections to make them as honest as possible. So a lot more to be talking about on this topic.
Agreed.
Well, let's Ken, let's start winding things up here. What's coming up next week? Let's get into that. On next Monday, the 21st, like I said, we'll have part two of Who Counts the Votes with Stephanie. And in all likelihood, I'm going to have at least part one of an interview with an actual J6 prisoner, another J6 prisoner, Larry Brock Jr. He's out of prison now, but his story is quite interesting. I'm still kind of sorting my way through it with him, but I hope to at least have a part one interview with him so that he can tell you his story and what lies ahead for him. So a very, very interesting gentleman, former airline pilot. Of course, lost his job. He's an interesting man. So be bringing that to you on the 21st. Then also Debbie Stewart's going to come on and talk about the SAVE Act. You remember when that was in Congress?
Yeah.
So she's going to educate us on what the SAVE Act is all about. So ought to be interesting.
Yep. Always
ought to be a good one.
Find that for us. Yep.
Then the following week is our next roundtable. That'll be on the 28th. And John wants to talk about the Bill of Rights. Don't you dare. In other words, things that are forbidden according to the Bill of Rights. So ought to be very, very interesting. I think that'll be a good one. So that's coming up on the 28th. And I just also want to remind everyone that if you have any questions or comments about our broadcast tonight, feel free to email us to raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. It's raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com.
Yep. Don't forget to subscribe.
And don't forget to subscribe. So Ken will be wrapping up here with another episode of COS Basics from John Ackerman. And I think that will probably wrap us up for the evening. So I hope everyone has enjoyed our broadcast this evening. I just want to say one more time that what we're trying to do here is we're trying to bring you information regarding government overreach, breath and control of federal government, dealing with the national debt, term limits. Those are all major pillars of the COS resolution calling for a convention of states. So that's what we're trying to do. So, Ken, I think with that, we'll go to our video on COS basics from John Ackerman, and that'll be it for tonight. So, any comments or questions? Anything we need to address tonight?
No, had a lot of interested folks. Just basically I guess, getting educated tonight. So
Getting educated, yeah.
Yep.
Were you able to own that? That was the first Zoom recording that I've used. Were you able to see that PowerPoint clearly enough, or should we try and make that a little bigger, or what?
if we can make it a little bigger, I ended up throwing on a full screen, so it blew it up a little bit more for me. So if people are on a computer and can go full screen with it, it does.
Oh, okay.
Readable, definitely. Just have full screen to get a better view of it. But yeah,
I'll have to see. I don't know if in Zoom if I can put that PowerPoint up on a full screen. I don't know if I can do that or not in Zoom. I'll have to play with that and see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Ken, have a good evening. Thanks a lot. See you next week. And let's go to John Ackerman here.
John Ackerman for Convention of States, Indiana, continuing the COS basics. And we've been having some fun lately, busting some myths. The next myth that I'm going to bust is the one that says the convention could rewrite the entire Constitution. Gloom and doom. The fact is, that's a myth. It's not true that the convention could rewrite the entire Constitution. There is no rewrite intended. Article 5 of the Constitution is very clear at this point. The only thing the convention can do is propose amendments. Propose amendments. They would still have to be ratified by 3/4 of the 50 states. Now, the goal of the Convention of States project is firm. Holding an Article 5 convention to propose amendments to the United States Constitution. That's it. Propose amendments. We do have 3 kinds of amendments in mind, and the convention will be limited to these 3 topics. Amendments that would curb the federal debt, restrain federal spending. Amendments that would limit the power and jurisdiction of the federal government. And amendments that would impose term limits on the judiciary, federal bureaucrats, and elected officials. That's it. Pretty simple. The convention is limited to these 3 purposes, and state legislatures will provide specific instructions to their delegates to adhere to these restrictions. Appropriate amendments could include a balanced budget amendment and term limits on Congress and federal judges. Those are just examples of what might happen. And so the myth that the convention could rewrite the entire Constitution, busted.